Welcome back. In this one, we're going to be talking about if-else statements, and then we'll do a little bit of coding with RightTriangle. As always, when we get to our coding part, I invite you to kind of code along with me. Don't just like watch the video or look at the source code and think you got everything figured out. Code along with me. Pause the video if you need to. Rewind the video if you need to. But let's get started. If statements can be accompanied by an optional else clause for additional control over the flow of the program. So we got introduced to if statements in the last video, and I'm about to show you an optional else clause. And of course it's optional because in the previous video we didn't have it. We made if statements without it. So the if portion of the if else statement is going to be the exact same. We have the reserved word if, some parentheses, and inside the parentheses is a condition. Okay. The only way this is different is there's this else clause that is tacked on, the else portion, right? We see the reserved word else, and then we see some curly braces indicating the body, and in that body can be any number of statements. So when executed, the condition of the if-else statement is checked. If the condition is true, the statements inside of the if body will be executed, and the else portion will be skipped. What am I saying? Whenever we encounter the same, we're going to check the condition, and if it's true, we're going to enter the body of the if statement, executing all the statements that are there, and we would skip the else. However, if the condition is false, the if body will be skipped, and instead we execute what's inside of the else body. Right? Using this exact same example, right? We would encounter an if-else statement. We would check the condition. If it's false, instead, I would skip over this. That seems pretty normal, except now there is other code that we would execute instead. Right? So this is only executed if this is false. Okay, here's some quick examples. Here I have a double variable pi with the value of 3.14, and I ask, is it exactly 3.14? In this case, it's true. It'd say we would enter the body of the if statement and print off pi. We would then skip the else. So notice that the only thing that we're printing is pi. In this example, we have age is equal to 17. And I'm asking, is 17 greater than or equal to 18? Well, that's false. So we would skip this and instead go down to the else, which says you can't vote. So notice we did not print you can vote. Instead, we printed you can't vote. And the only way I got there was because my condition was false. So using this, we're going to code RightTriangle. It says write a program, RightTriangle, that prompts a user for 3 sides of a triangle and prints whether or not the triangle is a right triangle. This may be a good spot to kind of pause if you want to attempt this on your own, but I'm going to hop in and actually code RightTriangle. Keep in mind that the way that we determine if a triangle is a right triangle is this formula. A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So the user is going to give us a, b, and c, and we need to determine, is it a right triangle? Right. I've got IntelliJ pulled up here. I'm going to make a new project by going to File, New Project. Thank you, AVG. We're going to go to File, New Project. Our JDK is already selected, so I'm going to hit Next. I'm going to hit Next. I'm already in my Computer Science Principles folder, so I'm going to make a new project called RightTriangle. Notice that the subfolder is made for me. We'll hit Finish, and this window is perfectly fine. I'm going to expand my project folder, right-click on the SRC, and make a new Java class called RightTriangle. First thing I'm going to do is plug in my main method with PSVM. Okay, and we're going to need 3 inputs from the user. We're going to be using scanner. So I'm going to go ahead and import scanner. Step 2, I'm going to create my scanner object. Step 3, I'm going to prompt the user. This would be one where I would like give like some background, right? I would maybe say something like this program asks for three sides of a triangle. Then determines if the triangle is a right triangle. Maybe for clarification, I would put something here like A, B, C. This program asks for three sides, A, B, and C, of a triangle, then determines if the triangle is a right triangle. I did all that so that when I get down here, I can ask very simply, please enter the value for A. Okay. So I'm asking for this side. I then need to basically get that data type. I guess it's possible that we got doubles, right? The sides of the triangle can be a double, or we can have a fractional number here. So we're going to create double A, and that's going to be input.next double. I say all that I don't really expect to use doubles. I'm definitely not going to test it with doubles because all the right triangles that I know of are not doubles. That may not be a thing. Yeah, surely you can have a double. Anyway, let's ask for the next side. Please enter the value for B. And a big brain approach would be to copy and paste these things. And lastly, let's get the value for C. What I'd like you to notice is I'm not recreating the scanner. Right, step 2 here, I did it one time. I'm just reusing that scanner object. Once I have it, I don't have to remake it. Instead, I just command it with these methods, these functions, to actually get the input from the user. And I, of course, am saving those into values, A, B, and C. So all I've done so far is implement scanner, gotten the 3 inputs from the user. I'm ready to determine if we have a right triangle or not. I'm going to plug in my if-else statement syntax. The reason why an if-else statement kind of makes a lot of sense here, we're going to see other options on our if statements in the future, right? We saw in the previous video just a standalone if statement. Now we're getting if-else. There's going to be more in the future, as you might imagine, more variations of this. But with the if-else, an if-else makes a lot of sense is if you have 2 outcomes. Either the triangle is a right triangle or it's not. That's why an if-else statement makes sense. So I'm going to plug in that syntax. All of it. Right? We have the if portion, which looks just like what we did in our last video. This is because it is. I have this optional else clause that's getting tacked on. We see the reserved word else. Notice there's no condition here. That's because it's reliant on this condition. I do, however, have some braces that indicate the body. And just like with our if statement, there could be any number of statements inside the body of this else. So what we need to do is determine if we have a right triangle or not. Okay. We actually learned math methods to kind of help us perform this. Now the math here, right, it's just A times A and B times B and C times C. So it's not necessarily hard just to go A times A plus B times B, right? We do, however, know some math methods, math.pow, that will allow us to evaluate exponents. In this case, I'm going to need a base and an exponent. My base is going to be A. My exponent is just simply 2, right? So that'll do A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. I threw in a smirk because I did this on purpose. I want you to stop and think for a moment. What's wrong with this, right? IntelliJ is highlighting it with red, and it's indicating that it's incorrect. Required type Boolean. What does it say? It actually gives us a suggestion there to replace the equal sign with a double equal sign. Simply put, the condition of an if statement has to evaluate to true or false. Right now, it's not evaluating to anything. This isn't an expression that's producing a value, right? I'm trying to assign here with the assignment operator. What I want to do is check for equality using the double equal sign. Now it's happy. Now I'm getting a Boolean value from this relational operator. it's going to basically come in here and do a squared. It'll do b squared. It'll add those together and get some type of result. Over here on the right-hand side, we'll do c squared. We'll then ask, is this value equal to this value? True or false? If it's true, we enter the body of the if statement. So if I'm inside of this if statement, what that means is we have a right triangle. Okay, I'm going to print off some message to that effect. The triangle is a right triangle. If this is false, we would skip this and instead jump down to the else. And in this case, I'm going to print off some message indicating that it's not a right triangle. Why don't we try this out? This should be complete and working. I'm going to right click in free space and tell it to run. It's going to ask me for those three inputs, A, B, and C. Let's start with a right triangle. Everyone at this point kind of knows that a 3, 4, 5 triangle is a right triangle. What am I saying? 3, 4, 5 is going to give us a right triangle. Right? The triangle is a right triangle. Okay, let's run it again and let's do different values. I'm going to go close. 3, 4, 6. That one's not a right triangle. Okay, last thing I want to kind of show you is this is a bit of a mess. Right, that's a lot to just kind of cram into a condition. It's just a lot of text. So one approach I would consider to clean it up is to maybe extract that part and with the use of a variable. I'm going to take this out. Control X is my short key on Windows to cut. Cut is like copying but also deletes at the same time. And I'm going to paste it there with Control V on a Windows machine. Okay, so what I'm doing is I took out the condition here. It's still going to produce a true or false value. Specifically, this relational operator is going to produce a true or false value. That's going to get saved into this Boolean variable. The reason I did that is it allows me to kind of extract that, put it somewhere else, and then I'm going to come back here in my if statement and simply put the Boolean value right, the Boolean variable, I should say, right. Right? This is a Boolean. It's either going to be true or false. In the event that it's true, we would enter the body of the if statement and print off the triangle is a right triangle. In the event that this is false, we would jump down to it ain't right. And let's kind of demonstrate this. I'm going to run it again with the change that's in place. And we'll do a 3, 4, 5 triangle. It's still a right triangle. Let's do it again with a 3, 4, 6. And that is not a right triangle. The only reason I would do this is for like readability. Right? I'm able to put this somewhere else. And as we've seen in previous videos, anytime I have a formula I really like maybe expressing as a comment, another way to express the formula. Right? I'm saying a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This looks drastically different and maybe something that we're more used to than this. So I like to put that as a comment. But, you know, that could be kind of weird in context here next to the condition of our if statement. So anyway, so a slightly different approach that I would consider doing for readability. I think that's it on our slides, and thus it for the video. I'll see you in the next one.